I want to tell you something that I knew before the gun went off. I knew that this was risky. Not the vague kind of risk where you tell yourself marathons are always risky and just use it as a blanket excuse. I mean, I had specific, clear information that this might have been too much, too soon. 6 days after Boston, US, 2 weeks after my previous Boston Marathon UK PB, I attempted to do London Marathon. That's 3 marathons in 2 weeks. I signed up for London knowing the timeline. I knew it going in that it wasn't the wisest decision, and that is probably my biggest and only regret, is that I didn't pull out before I even got to the start line. The goal for me was still alive, and I was getting desperate. And if you know me, you know that I'm someone that wants to persist and continue to achieve the goals that they set for themselves, no matter what. But sometimes knowing when enough is the actual goal that I should strive towards. That's not a self-pity statement, that's just the fact. It's being able to understand that my body has its limits too, and as much as my mind wants to push through and continue going and going and going until I achieve this goal, which I will do, you also have to give yourself and your body the chance and the time to recover and reset. You can't just do 3 back-to-back marathons in 2 weeks, and you can't PB one of them and expect to PB 2 weeks on. But I think the one thing is just being as honest as possible when it comes to telling you guys why I ended up lining up on that start line anyways. I wanted this goal. And like I said in the caption on my Instagram post, I'm embarrassed that I even lined up. I'm embarrassed I took a spot from someone, and I'm embarrassed I couldn't even finish the race. Not embarrassed in the sense of I'm humiliated by DNFing. I think DNFing was the right thing to do. I'm just embarrassed that I didn't have it in me, or I didn't have the goal to pull out of the race before it even started. Waking up that morning, I knew something was off. I knew that my body hadn't quite fully recovered from Boston, US, just 6 days earlier. But in my head, I didn't want to speak anything into existence. I wanted to get to that start line and assess how I felt. I got to the start line and my head just wasn't really in it. And I think when you're going for a goal like this, your mind, your body have to be at their max capacity. And I knew it going in, but I'm trying to convince myself that this isn't the case and these are just like race day nerves. And then the race started and the race was fine. I mean, hitting the paces was okay. Cardiovascularly, I was okay. My heart rate wasn't spiking. The day was perfect for a PB. It was like perfect conditions. I knew we were getting a tailwind coming into the last stretch of the London Marathon, and I was like so looking forward to getting there. But from the first step, my legs already felt fatigued. My rate of perceived exertion, my RPE, was higher per step than I would like it to be, than it was even when I was racing Boston not 2 weeks ago. So I just knew that it might have been a tough day in the office, but in my head, I'd committed to this. I'd shaved my head and I was ready to get that goal. And then it got to about 10k. I'm still pushing, but every single step hurt so much more than it needed to. And as you know, I've been pushing off or trying to hold off this injury for so long that I was trying my best to just get to race day, finish the race and then deal with the consequences after. But as the race continued, I was feeling it not go away. Normally when a pain starts and you just keep pushing, the pain would eventually go away. And it was about 12k, it wasn't really going away, but it also wasn't getting worse. So I was like, let me just hold on for as long as possible. But yeah, I think the massive confidence boost was 2 weeks earlier, where I'd done Boston in those windy conditions and still managed to get a PB 237 and a podium spot. And I'm not going to dress it up. There was no strategy going into this race. I was just impatient. Doing back-to-back marathons isn't advisable, it isn't something I'd recommend, and it isn't something that I know in hindsight I should have done. However, I know my body so well, and I know when it's time to stop and when it's time to push. And it got to, I think it was about 26k in the race just before you get to Canary Wharf, and I saw my friends at the cheer squad, and naturally when you see them you just pick up the pace just a little bit. And as I was picking up that pace, I just felt my hamstring just like pull back, and it was saying, it spoke to me. It said, if you keep going, we're not gonna be good friends. And it was at that point, 26 kilometers into the race, I decided to do my first ever DNF. The thing is, I've pushed through bad days before. Every runner has that race where they think all the odds are against them and they still push through and end up having the best performance ever. And I thought that might have been that day for me. I thought that might have been where I was. And the issue is you don't really know until you get to the start line and you go for it. And that's the only reason I didn't pull out the morning of. Even if you know something's wrong, you only find out if something's actually wrong when you do, not when you think about doing. And that's why I chose to go to that start line. I just want to talk about what it's like to DNF, because I think talking about it strategically is dishonest. It was a very impromptu decision, and it was the right decision in hindsight. Standing on the sidelines after I'd pulled out just after my cheer squad, you feel, it's an interesting feeling. Like 50,000 people are running past you. You look back, you see some of your friends, they're cheering you on to tell you to come back on the course. You feel so, what's the best way to describe it? You feel completely invisible, but also so exposed at the same time. You're there on the sidelines, people are cheering everyone on, and then people are cheering you on, and people on the course are wasting their precious energy trying to get you back on the course. And it's just at that point I knew that if I tried to continue running, I would do both them and myself a disservice. I'd do all of you guys a disservice by showing you that it's not okay to pull out when your health is at risk. And that's the one thing that I was thinking is, how can I be the best positive example? There's been a lot of talks online of people, especially content creators, just pushing themselves to injury, and they all have their own reasons for it. But I didn't want to just be another injured creator on this platform or any other platform. I wanted to hopefully show and inspire you guys not to DNF if you don't need to, but that it's okay to DNF and it's okay to live with the consequences of that guilt that you've taken someone's spot in a race and then not completed it. Here's the thing I've been sitting with since London. 3 marathons in 2 weeks is not okay. You see some of these crazy challenges online where people are running across countries, and that's actually where I was saving my legs for, because one of my friends is running across Greece, Herc, if you know him, and I'm going to be joining him to crew. And he's obviously going to be doing 2+ marathons a day every single day, 14 days. But it's a completely different ball game when you're going for a personal best and when you're pushing your body to its physiological limits. It's not, marathons aren't easy and they're tough on the body, and your body does take a beating. And if you haven't trained for multiple marathons in such close proximity, which I haven't, I've been training for 1 marathon. So to be able to then try and recover and do another one, and then try and recover again and do another one, it was never going to be easy, it was never going to be simple, and it was also never going to be the wisest decision. And I had a reason at the beginning of the year for doing it in that order, and I don't feel like I need to justify those reasons either. But I've learned my lessons, and like I said in the Instagram post, I think we truly learn lessons either the hard way or the harder way. And that, London was just that. It was the harder way to learn a lesson that I should have known. The only thing I can and will say is that same stubbornness to line up at the start line of London Marathon is the same reason I'm even going after these goals in the first place. It's drive and it's purpose and it's like raw ambition. And I do think that that ambition is the reason I was able to podium 2 weeks prior. That ambition is the reason I have 6 stars in 5 years. And that ambition is the reason, I hope anyways, that some of you choose to follow me. And it's not an on and off switch, and it's you're watching this live as I'm doing them. You're learning the mistakes with me. You're watching me make errors and falter and hopefully learn while teaching you guys. So it's not a situation where I think that needs to be switched off. And it's not a situation where I think that I need to, take a step back from it. It's, I will always channel my 100% energy into something, and sometimes I'm off the mark, and that's just a part of life and growing up and being an adult and experimenting and putting yourself out there. And that's, it's part and parcel of the career and life I've chosen to go down. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me while I make these mistakes, and sometimes you might agree with them, sometimes you might disagree with them, but what we can appreciate is that they all come from the same source, from the same place, and that is an incessant need to push myself and figure out what it is that I'm capable of in this very, very short time that we have on Earth. I'm not going to pretend that I know what's next. I obviously know I have this challenge coming up, and then I have no races booked in the calendar, and that's not saying that the 2:30 goal is gone, but I think if I immediately announce something now saying I'm going to go 2:30 again at this race, I'm not really learning the lessons that I should have learned. And yeah, I'm going to get this challenge out of the way. If you want to see what Greece is going to look like, then obviously make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to the channel, because we'll be vlogging while we're out there, and also subscribe to Herx because he'll also be vlogging while we're out there. And it should be such an incredible experience watching someone so close to me break a world record, another world record actually. I think I just need to recover from London before making another race announcement. The one thing that I do know is this: I'm not defined by a time goal, I'm not defined by a race performance, and I'm not defined by what happens on one specific day. What I do think I am defined by, and what I'd like to define myself by, is someone who works hard, someone who is honest with his audience and his friends and his peers, and someone that really wants to see what they are capable of. So I do have another goal in mind, and I do think that 2:30 is going to come eventually. However, like I said, if you want to see Greece, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you've learned the same lessons I've learned, and I hope you enjoyed watching this episode.